the farm monitoring group that took hidden camera footage revealing a Northland share milker hitting cows with a steel pipe, says MPI is, and I quote, incompetent when it comes to animal welfare issues, and the Agriculture Minister should either address that or resign. Farmwatch provided the footage to the newsroom website, who published it today. As a result, MPI is now investigating the farm. But Farmwatch says that's only because they've gone public with the footage, and they claim they only put hidden cameras in the milking shed because a farm worker who'd witnessed the abuse and complained about it to MPI was told they couldn't prosecute without video footage, and the case was therefore being closed. John Darrick of Farmwatch says MPI don't try hard enough and don't take claims of animal abuse seriously enough. Obviously, we wanted to raise that with MPI. They've declined our request for an interview. A warning, the footage from Farmwatch and newsroom we're about to screen is upsetting. John Darrick joined us in the studio here earlier this afternoon and told us Farmwatch initially received complaints from a farm worker and concerned locals and referred them to MPI.
SAFE and Farmwatch both independently replied to those people and said, look, we're not the appropriate people to investigate this, go to MPI. And we actually gave people specific names and numbers of investigators at MPI who cover that region.
So you didn't initially put the hidden cameras in and do this operation. You actually referred what was essentially a group of whistleblowers within the community directly to MPI.
Yes, that's right, yep. I thought it wasn't our it wouldn't be appropriate for us to have just gone straight in and put cameras in. And to be completely honest, we're a small group of volunteers. This is up in Northland. We didn't really have the capacity to do this kind of investigation. It was going to be a lot of work, a lot of sleepless nights. We've all got a lot of commitments. So it was those kinds of reasons why we told people to go to MPI. And that's our general response to people, because we get a lot of people emailing us and a lot of people contacting us. And our automatic default response is go to MPI. They're the appropriate bodies.
So who went to MPI in the end?
So in the end, we know of 2 people that have been to MPI and complained about. One of which is an ex-worker, and he gave them MPI very specific information.
So the ex-worker had seen this taking place and been there when it was taking place.
They knew about it happening, and there were others in the community as well that had gone. There was at least one other person that had gone to MPI that had specific knowledge of what was going on as well.
For people who haven't seen the footage you've provided to Newsroom, can you describe what we see in it?
So the footage is disturbing. We put our cameras up in the milking shed, which is where we knew that the abuse was going to happen in one particular place, though he had been abusing animals around the farm in a variety of different ways. And the footage is horrible. It shows this share milker rushing at the cows, screaming at them, yelling at them, swearing at them, and beating them with a range of different objects. The cows in the footage are terrified. They're trying to back away from him. They're trying to get away from this guy. And they're all terrified of going into the shed. They don't want to go in and be milked because they know that they're going to get beaten. And
they are beaten with what?
So they're beaten with alkathene piping, the kind of hard plastic piping, which is commonly used on farms, but this beating is severe. It's around the backs, it's around their faces. They're also beaten with a stick. And most disturbingly, they're beaten with a piece of steel piping. I've gone into the farm, I've held this piece of piping, it's heavy, it would be excruciatingly painful, and we see this worker beating the cows around the legs with this piece of piping.
And so what sort of injuries would that cause?
We were sent a photo by one of these whistleblowers, and it shows quite severe swelling on the legs of these cows.
Now, one of the whistleblowers had gone to MPI.
Yes.
And one of the whistleblowers had said to MPI, I have seen this.
Yes, that's
I am a
completely
witness
correct.
to this.
Yes, yep.
And what had MPI done?
MPI went out to the farm and they spent about approximately half an hour there, we're told, and they came back and told the whistleblower that, quote, the farmer was a nice guy. The whistleblower got back in touch with MPI and said the violence is escalating. He's now using this metal pipe, and he was told by MPI that the case was closed. And what I've heard is MPI told him that they would need video footage in order to do anything about it.
And so then he came to you?
Yes, so, yeah.
And then the camera went in, or the cameras?
Yep. So it was after MPI had been there, after they'd closed the case, and knowing that there was no other way of preventing this violence to the cows. It was only at that stage that we initiated a hidden camera investigation.
So you've now provided this footage to MPI,
Yep.
who have said what?
So I went and met with MPI last Thursday, sat down with them for about an hour and a half, provided all the original video files from our hidden cameras, and they said they're reopening the investigation.
This is an investigation they'd closed despite the fact that somebody who worked on the farm and had witnessed precisely this behaviour told them about it.
Yes, so they had specific knowledge of exactly what was going on, and they closed their investigation despite that.
Big picture, but in your opinion and in your experience, are MPI keen, predisposed towards prosecution as much as you believe they should be?
In my opinion, MPI have proven incompetent when it comes to animal welfare issues. You can't trust that when you go to MPI and tell them about animal abuse, that they will be able to uncover it and then prosecute based on it. They aren't willing to carry out proactive investigations. So if they go to a farm and there's dead cows in front of them, they might take action. But if it requires more work than that, if they would have to do covert monitoring or use hidden cameras, or even if they'd have to go around and interview people in the community and get statements and build a case, they're not going to do any of those things. So when we go to them with a gold-plated case, they will take action. If they have to go out and build their own case, our experience has shown that they're completely incompetent.
Where does the government stand in all of this? If the ministry is not as proactive or as singular as you would hope they might be, what role does the government have in enforcing greater intervention by the ministry?
I think the minister needs to come out and explain why it was that MPI were unable to act despite having specific information about specific abuse that was going on. MPI can't get away with saying that this is a case which is under investigation. They need to come out and they need to reassure the public as to and give the public some confidence that animal abuse will be uncovered. And crucially, they need to reassure farm workers that if they come to MPI with information about animal abuse, that information will be taken seriously. They need to reassure the whistleblowers who came to us that their voices will be listened to if they come to MPI in future. I think MPI need to be stripped of their animal welfare responsibilities. They've shown time and time again, year after year, that they're incapable of uncovering quite obvious and systematic abuse. For example, with the abuse of bobby calves in 2015, which we exposed, they acted as if that was a complete surprise. It was only when an internal report was leaked a year later that we found out that they'd known about that animal abuse since 2011. MPI have shown that they're in fact covering up animal abuse. For that reason, I'm calling for MPI to be stripped of their animal welfare responsibilities, and I'm calling for the Minister of Agriculture, Damien O'Connor, to front publicly and explain what MPI are doing. If Damien O'Connor is unwilling to do that, I think he should step aside, and that somebody should be put in place who actually takes animal welfare seriously for New Zealand.
That's John Derrick from Farmwatch. What do MPI say? Well, they've declined our invitation to be interviewed. Damien O'Connor not available, but the Associate Agriculture Minister with responsibilities for animal welfare, Meka Whaitiri, will join us after the news at 6. We'd love your feedback on this. Text us 2101 or email checkpoint@radionz.co.nz.